Commander Zethkar stood in the observation deck of the Vorthik flagship, watching the blue-green world rotate slowly below. Earth, the third planet in this unremarkable system, had been broadcasting primitive signals for barely a century. Cosmic eye blink for a species that had ruled the galaxy for 3 millennia. Yet something about this world troubled him. "The deployment is ready, Commander," reported Lieutenant Vexthen, her scaled hands dancing across holographic controls. "The Ravager has been loaded into Drop Pod 7. Genetic scans confirm peak conditioning muscle density at 347% baseline, neural response time at 0.003 seconds, predatory drive at maximum parameters." Zethkar nodded, though his expression remained grim. The Ravager program had never failed. Not once. The creatures sleeping in the pod below represented the pinnacle of Vorthik bioengineering genes harvested from the most lethal predators. Across 12 conquered worlds, combined and refined over generations, the Shadowmaw's stealth, the Ironhide's durability, the Voidhound's relentless hunting drive, all merged into one perfect instrument of conquest. "Initiate deployment sequence," he commanded. "Target, residential sector, coordinates 39.7392 north, 84.1951 west. The humans call it Ohio." The drop pod detached with a mechanical hiss, streaking through Earth's atmosphere like a falling star. Inside, the Ravager stirred. 12 feet of engineered death, its black hide gleaming with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed with its heartbeat. 6 legs ending in retractable talons. A jaw that could crush titanium. Eyes that could track heat signatures from miles away. As the pod struck suburban soil with ground-shaking force, the Ravager emerged into an alien world. Neat rows of dwellings stretched in all directions. Primitive transportation vessels sat motionless in designated areas. The air carried thousands of scents most unfamiliar, but one stood out. The dominant species, human. The creature's genetically programmed hunt began immediately. It moved with liquid grace between the structures, analyzing, categorizing, hunting. Its sensors detected the human's inferior physical capabilities, soft skin, blunt teeth, pathetic muscle mass. This would be quick, but as it approached the third dwelling, something unprecedented happened. A small orange creature emerged from the shadows and sat directly in the Ravager's path. The alien predator froze. Its genetic memory contained data on every known threat in the galaxy. But this was something new. Something that stared at the universe's most perfect predator with casual indifference. The creature, Mr. Whiskers, according to a small metal tag, tilted its head and began to purr. Dr. Sarah Chung was reviewing patient files when her coffee mug started vibrating across her desk. Through her office window, she saw a streak of fire arc across the morning sky before disappearing behind the tree line. The ground trembled slightly, and car alarms began wailing in the distance. "Meteorite," she muttered, reaching for her phone to check the news. But before she could unlock it, her neighbor's voice carried across the street. "Holy shit! There's something in the Hendersons' backyard." Sarah abandoned her files and rushed outside. Half the neighborhood was already gathering, pointing at the smoking crater where the Hendersons' prize-winning rose garden used to be. But it wasn't the destruction that made her blood run cold. It was the thing climbing out of the twisted metal pod. The creature defied description. It moved like liquid shadow, each step deliberate and predatory. Its hide seemed to absorb light, making it difficult to focus on directly. 6 legs carried it with impossible grace, while its head guard. That head swiveled with mechanical precision, scanning the crowd of humans. "Everyone back inside," Sarah shouted, her medical training overriding her fear. "Call 911. Call the military. Call." The creature's attention locked onto her. Those eyes black as deep space, but somehow intelligent calculating fixed on her with the focus of a laser sight. It began moving toward the crowd, each step deliberate, unstoppable. That's when Mr. Whiskers made his appearance, the 15-pound orange. Tabby had been enjoying his morning sunbath on the Hendersons' porch when the commotion began. Now, as this oversized alien prowled toward his territory, Mr. Whiskers made a decision that would echo through galactic history. He puffed up. Not just his fur, his entire being seemed to expand with righteous indignation. His back arched into a perfect Halloween cat pose. His tail tripled in apparent size, and from his small orange throat came a sound that somehow conveyed 3,000 years of feline superiority and absolute territorial dominance. The Ravager stopped dead dot in its genetic memory. That sound pattern meant only one thing: apex predator warning. But the creature making it was tiny, weighing perhaps 1/20th of the Ravager's mass. Logic dictated that this was impossible. Yet every instinct, every carefully programmed behavioral response screamed the same message: danger. The standoff lasted 30 seconds. 30 seconds of a galactic superweapon being psychologically evaluated by a house cat. Then Mr. Whiskers took a step forward, and the Ravager, the perfect predator, the ultimate weapon, the destroyer of worlds, took a step back. The watching humans couldn't believe their eyes. Sarah fumbled for her phone, hands shaking as she started recording. This was either the most important moment in human history or the most bizarre. On the Vorthik flagship, alarms were beginning to sound. Asterisk Commander Zethkar stared at the tactical display in growing horror. The Ravager's bio readings were all wrong. Stress hormones spiked. Neural activity showed confusion patterns they'd never recorded. Most disturbing of all, the creature was ... retreating. "This is impossible," Lieutenant Vex then whispered, her scaled fingers dancing over control interfaces. "The Ravager doesn't retreat. It can't retreat. We bred that response out of its genetic line 8 generations ago." "Then explain what we're seeing," Zethkar snarled, his own stress pheromones filling the command center. On the main screen, they watched their perfect weapon being systematically demoralized by what appeared to be a tiny, furry, local predator. The small Creature Earth designation. Domestic cat showed no fear. Instead, it approached the Ravager with a confidence that suggested it was the apex predator of this world. "Run a genetic analysis on the small creature," Zethkar ordered. "I want to know what we're dealing with." The results were baffling. The Earth cat showed no unusual physical capabilities. No venom glands. No armored hide. No evident weapons beyond small retractable claws. By every measurable metric, it should have been prey. Yet it behaved as if it ruled this world. Below, on Earth, the situation was escalating. Word of the standoff had spread through social media faster than any government could contain it. Videos of Mr. Whiskers facing down the alien invader were going viral. #CatVsAlien was trending globally. More importantly, other cat owners were beginning to understand. Mrs. Rodriguez appeared at her front door, carrying her massive Maine Coon. "Sergeant Fluffington, if Whiskers can do it, so can you, baby," she whispered, setting the 20-pound cat down on her lawn. Sergeant Fluffington assessed the situation with the tactical brilliance of his namesake. The alien creature was clearly an intruder in his territory. This would not stand. He began the approach pattern that cats had perfected over millennia, the slow, deliberate advance that communicated absolute confidence and territorial dominance. The Ravager's confusion deepened. Now there were 2 small predators exhibiting alpha behavior. Its programming had no protocols for this scenario. In every world the Vorthik had conquered, there was always a clear hierarchy. The strong dominated the weak. The large consumed the small. This world's ecosystem seemed to operate on entirely different principles. A third cat appeared. Then a fourth. Zimmerman's Persian. Princess Whiskers, emerged from her carrier with the regal bearing of royalty surveying her domain. The Johnson's Tabby Mix, Detective Mittens, approached with the methodical precision of a seasoned investigator. Each cat evaluated the situation and reached the same conclusion. This was their neighborhood, and this intruder needed to understand his place in the hierarchy. The Ravager, bred from creatures that had never evolved alongside small, fearless predators, began exhibiting signs of severe psychological stress. Its hunting protocols were designed for prey that ran, fought, or submitted. These creatures did none of those things. Instead, they approached with the casual confidence of beings who believed they were the most dangerous things in the universe. "Sir," Vex then reported, her voice barely above a whisper, "the Ravager's stress levels are approaching critical. I'm reading neural patterns consistent with ... with prey response." Zethkar's world was crumbling. 3,000 years of galactic dominance. And it was ending because their ultimate weapon was being intimidated by Earth's house pets. Asterisk, asterisk. The Pentagon's emergency session had been in progress for 2 hours when the first reports arrived. General Morrison, a career military officer who'd seen combat on 3 continents, found himself staring at intelligence reports that defied every principle of warfare he'd learned. "You're telling me," he said slowly, "that our most effective defense against this alien superpredator is cats?" Dr. Amanda Walsh, the xenobiologist who'd been hastily recruited from MIT, nodded grimly. "The creature appears to be experiencing what we can only describe as an alpha dominance crisis. It was bred from predators that evolved in environments where size equals dominance. Earth cats evolved alongside much larger predators and developed psychological warfare tactics that transcend physical limitations." On the main screen, live feeds from suburban Ohio showed a scene that would have been comedic if not for its implications. The alien creature, now designated Target Alpha, was surrounded by 17 domestic cats, each maintaining a careful distance while exhibiting classic territorial display behaviors. The creature that had been designed to conquer worlds was crouched in a defensive position, its bioluminescent patterns flickering erratically. "It's a psychological breakdown," Dr. Walsh continued. "The creature's genetic programming tells it these small animals should be prey, but their behavior indicates apex predator status. The cognitive dissonance is literally driving it insane." Meanwhile, the phenomenon was spreading. Social media had exploded with the hashtag #CatArmy. Pet owners across the globe were sharing videos of their cats exhibiting unusual behavior, increased alertness, territorial marking, and what animal behaviorists were calling protective positioning. It was as if Earth's domestic cat population had collectively decided to defend their territory. In Tokyo, a businessman named Hiroshi Tanaka walked his cat Yuki to the nearest news station. "She's been acting strange all morning," he told reporters. "Like she's preparing for war." Similar reports emerged from London, Mumbai, São Paulo, and Sydney. Cats everywhere were responding to some invisible signal, their ancient predatory instincts awakening in response to an alien threat. They couldn't see, but somehow sensed. Back on the Vorthik flagship, the situation had escalated beyond commander. Zethkar's worst nightmares. The Ravager's neural patterns were deteriorating rapidly. Worse, long-range sensors were detecting similar biosignatures across the planet, millions of them. "How many of these creatures are there?" he demanded. "Preliminary estimates suggest over 600 million, sir," Vex then reported. "They appear to be distributed across all major population centers. And, sir, they're all exhibiting the same behavioral patterns." Zethkar's world conquering. Certainty crumbled. The Vorthik Empire had built their dominance on a simple principle: deploy the Ravager, watch civilizations crumble, then move in to claim the resources. But this world had evolved something unprecedented species that was simultaneously domesticated and utterly fearless. On Earth, the standoff continued. Mr. Whiskers, now recognized as the leader of humanity's most unlikely defense force, maintained his position at the center of the feline perimeter. The orange tabby showed no signs of fatigue or fear. If anything, he seemed to be enjoying the attention. The alien creature, meanwhile, had begun exhibiting behaviors that military analysts were describing as complete psychological surrender. It had stopped advancing, stopped scanning for threats, and was now making soft whimpering sounds that seemed to translate roughly to, "Please don't hurt me." Dr. Chun, who had been documenting the encounter from her front porch, realized she was witnessing something that would reshape humanity's understanding of both predator psychology and their own planetary defenses. Earth's cats hadn't just stood up to an alien invasion. They'd won through pure, unadulterated psychological warfare. The question now was whether the alien commanders would recognize their defeat or double down on a strategy that was clearly failing. 3 days after the first encounter, the Vorthic Empire faced its first military surrender in 3 millennia. Commander Zethkar stood before the High Council via hologram, his career in ruins, his certainty shattered. "You're telling us," High Counselor Morphic's voice dripped with disbelief, "that our ultimate weapon was defeated by creatures that weigh less than a standard military ration?" "Yes, Counselor," Zethkar replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "The Ravager has been completely psychologically dominated. It now exhibits prey behaviors in the presence of what the humans call house cats. Our xenobiologists believe the damage may be permanent." The holographic council chamber fell silent. For 3,000 years, the Vorthic had conquered worlds. Using the same strategy, deploy the Ravager, watch civilizations crumble, then claim the resources. No species had ever survived a Ravager deployment. Until Earth. Back on Earth, the situation had evolved beyond anyone's expectations. The initial standoff had become a global phenomenon. Cat owners worldwide were reporting that their pets had assumed what animal behaviorists were calling protective formations around their homes. The cats weren't aggressive. They were simply present, watchful. Ready. Dr. Sarah Chun found herself at the center of the most unusual diplomatic contact in human history. The alien ship had sent a communication probe, a small, harmless device that projected a holographic interface. The message was simple: "We wish to negotiate." The negotiations took place in Sarah's backyard, with Mr. Whiskers maintaining his position as unofficial Earth representative. The alien diplomat, a smaller, less intimidating version of the Ravager, approached with obvious nervousness. "We we did not understand your world's defensive capabilities," the alien's translator rendered in stilted English. "We believed your species was defenseless. We were incorrect." Sarah, still struggling to process the absurdity of the situation, looked at Mr. Whiskers. The orange tabby was grooming his paw with casual indifference, as if interdimensional diplomacy was just another Tuesday morning activity. "Our cats aren't weapons," she explained. "They're pets, companions. They just don't like being intimidated." The alien diplomat's confusion was palpable. "But they exhibit apex predator behaviors. They show no fear. They claim territory with absolute confidence. In our experience, such behaviors indicate supreme dominance." "That's just how cats are," Sarah replied, realizing she was explaining 3,000 years of feline evolution to a galaxy-conquering alien empire. They're independent. They don't submit to anything they don't respect. And they definitely don't respect things that threaten their territory. Over the following weeks, the situation evolved into something unprecedented in galactic history. The Vorthic Empire, faced with the psychological defeat of their ultimate weapon, found themselves in the peculiar position of having to negotiate with a species they'd intended to conquer, The terms were surprisingly simple. Earth would be granted autonomous status within the Vorthic sphere of influence. In exchange, Earth would share their knowledge of what the aliens had termed psychological warfare through confident indifference. The galaxy, it seemed, had never encountered a species that had evolved alongside creatures capable of staring down death itself with casual disdain. Other worlds had apex predators. Earth had cats being so confident in their own superiority that they could convince a genetically engineered super predator that it was, in fact, the inferior species Mr. Whiskers now recognized as Earth's most effective defender, accepted his new status with typical feline grace. He allowed himself to be petted by world leaders and photographed for magazine covers, but ultimately returned to his primary concerns: sunbathing, napping, and maintaining. His territory, the Ravager, meanwhile, was relocated to a specialized facility where it was slowly being rehabilitated. Psychologists from both species worked together to help the creature overcome its newfound fear of small, furry predators. Progress was slow, but promising, and across the galaxy, word spread of the small blue world where evolution had produced the ultimate psychological warriors creatures, so supremely confident that they could defeat any threat simply by refusing to be impressed by it. Earth's cats had done more than defend their planet. They'd redefined what it meant to be an apex predator in a universe full of bigger, stronger, more technologically advanced species. Sometimes it seemed the greatest weapon wasn't strength or size or advanced technology. Sometimes it was simply the absolute, unshakable confidence to sit in the path of a charging monster and communicate through nothing more than body language and attitude. Not today, buddy, not in my neighborhood. The universe, it turned out, had a lot to learn from house cats.